Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this episode of One-on-One. We continue to feature councilmen and councilwomen in both areas, Lafourche and Terrebonne, and today we have a long-standing councilman from District 7 in Terrebonne Parish, Mr. Danny Babin. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll go way back with Danny and find out exactly what makes him tick on our road on One-on-One. We'll be back. One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
And welcome back to this episode of One-on-One. As promised, our guest today is Mr. Danny Babin. Danny, good to see you. How are you?
Thank you, Martin. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
And Mr. was my daddy. Danny's my name. Okay.
All right, Danny. Let's go way back. A lot of common threads.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Mr. Ray a little further in the program.
Good.
But take me way back to the earliest years you can recall. Where were you born?
Well, I was born here in Houma. I grew up on Leveron Street, first block of Leveron Street. Went to Houma Elementary School and Houma Junior High in Terrebonne. And we had a great neighborhood, Martin, growing up. This was way before Martin Luther King and Tunnel Boulevard was put in. So we could, Leveron Park was in the back. And actually, back in the days when it flooded, the Stufalays lived across the street, and Judge Lodge and them lived next door. And when the street would flood, it would flood right up to our house. And we could literally put the pirogues down and paddle all the way to the back to Leveron Park.
I'm trying to remember, what was where Tunnel Boulevard is now?
Oh, that was just all cane fields to the back. Back in the day, the Bonvillans lived around the Crumbar Plantation. No, that was all woods and then cane fields.
So how were y'all accessing Leveron back then?
Well, Leveron went all the way back to that point.
Okay. Gotcha.
It just didn't have the road there.
Okay, all right. And you mentioned Judge a lot. Was that Morris's father?
Morris's father, correct.
Yeah.
Morris and Harry and Elizabeth grew up next door to us.
All right. And didn't Harold Haydale grow up in Leveron?
Harold grew up down Leveron Street. That's exactly right. We had a lot of St. Francis guys that grew up down there, and Harold was probably the most well-known out the group, and just a great guy. You know?
So what was the camaraderie like? I mean, back in those days, we didn't have cell phones.
No.
We didn't have ways to communicate readily, so a lot of the instruction came from the superiors on down. What was it like?
Well, there's no doubt. Listen, my father was a welder, okay, and he did a lot of welding offshore, so consequently he was gone a good bit. So Mom was naturally the ruler of the house, so to speak. Plus we had an aunt. My mother's sister lived with us. We called her Nan. Her name was Cecile Nakan. Never drove in her life. Her husband died when she was only 29 years old and never remarried, and she lived with us. So it was like having a grandmother in the house with us. So it helped raise us. I have an older brother and an older sister, and actually my father passed away when I was 19, and I was at Nichols at the time, and I lived at home with Mom and Nan, and I mean, they treated me like royalty, to say the least. And it was a great upbringing. We had a great neighborhood. A lot of guys, like I said, the Stuflays, the Crispinos, the Lottingers, Butch Robichaux, just a good, the Lerettes on the street behind us. And I was kind of like the youngest of the group, but tagged along with the older guys.
You sort of described in Mayberry.
Yeah, it really was, okay? Leveron was a good area, and it still is a good area. And actually, I married a girl from Leveron Street, okay?
Oh, really? What,
yeah,
from
Bernadette and the Marcellos. The Marcellos lived up in the front of the street. That's exactly right.
Yeah, because they had the furniture store up in the front.
They had a furniture store in the front, and then Papa Marcel and them at one time had the grocery store at the corner of Leveron and Hobson Street.
Okay.
And now, when he got into the furniture business, he just leased out the store to the Jacksons.
So let me picture this. You're riding your bike up and down Leveron.
That's right.
And Bernadette caught your eye one day. How did that happen?
Well, I think I caught her eye. Is what it, no, we just all grew up together, if you want to know the truth. And Uncle Buddy and them were right next door. No, you asked about how did you communicate. We rode our bikes everywhere, Martin. I mean, we'd walk to the movie theater, the Bijou, the Park, the Fox, the Grand.
You had 4 choices.
Yeah, we
walking
did.
Distance.
That's exactly right. And listen, we would all get together. And back in the day, I went to public school, but back in the day, we were all friends. The kids at St. Francis, because it wasn't Vanderbilt then, the kids at St. Francis and the ones at Houma Junior High in Terrebonne, we did everything together, and it was fun.
And that had to do with the parents.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Because the parents were all cut off the same mode or cloaked the same way.
They were all hard-working middle-class people that just, they enjoyed life and they wanted to raise their children the best way they could. Like I said, my father was a welder, but he never wanted my older brother and I to do that. He not forced, but guided us to go on to college.
They sort of paved the way.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
You said your aunt was a Knockhand.
Correct.
So she wasn't married?
No, her maiden name was Knockhand. I mean, her married name, excuse me.
So what
her
was
mother's maiden name was a Dugas. They were from, actually, Chack Bay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's related.
Excuse me, Chackahoola, I'm saying.
That's related to Dougie Dugas and that whole
thing? I don't think so.
A lot of Dugas.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I mean, my parents would be over 100 now.
Yeah.
So it goes back a long way.
Yeah.
In fact, my daddy would be, I think, 110. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, you say that she was in the house, your aunt. They had carte blanche for discipline.
Oh.
And for it wasn't none of this. Don't correct my child because he's not yours. It was like, you have all rights.
We had 2 mothers, okay, and I'm not sure which one was the strictest, okay, which one ruled the roost the most, but we just respected both of them so much, like I said, after my father passed away and I was the only one at home, it was me and those two. And
Right.
actually, I'd have friends come sleep over, and they would actually bring us coffee in bed in the morning. You know, so
Yeah.
it was a nice gig.
Pretty good. Did you get biscuits with that too?
No, you had to get up and go to the kitchen for biscuits.
But, hey, tell me about your schooling. What's the earliest schooling you remember?
Well, I mean, Houma Elementary. I went there through, I guess it was the 7th grade, and then or maybe 6th grade. And then we went to Houma Junior High. And in 10th grade, those days, you didn't go to Terrebonne until you were in 10th grade.
Right.
And went to Terrebonne, graduated from Terrebonne in 1966. And then went on to Nichols and finished my undergraduate degree at Nichols in 1970. And that was the days of the Vietnam War and the draft. And the best man at my wedding was George Rome. He's since passed away. George's birthday was September 6th, and my birthday was September 7th. And the drawing for the lottery, he was number 6, and I was number 8.
Wow.
So George wound up going to Vietnam. I was in college, and I had my name in the National Guard for 4 years. But as it went, you had a deferment as long as you were in school in those days. And I graduated from college. I'll never forget the dates. Again, I have a degree in history, so dates kind of stick in my mind. I graduated from undergraduate on a Sunday, May 24th, 1970. Burnett and I got married May 30th, 1970, the next Saturday, and I was getting drafted June 28th of that same year. And actually, while we were on our honeymoon, the National Guard called, and my mother said, "Can I go sign?" And they said no, but they post-dated my enlistment so I wouldn't get drafted. So I spent 6 years in the Company C, 2nd Battalion, 156th Infantry, right here in Houma. Did my basic training at Fort Polk. And
What was that like?
well, you know, Martin, again, it was during the Vietnam War. So just because we were National Guard, that didn't mean anything. The company that I was in basic and in AIT, there were only 4 of us that were reserve. Everybody else was regular Army. So we were regular Army. And it was quite an experience, okay? Because, you know, when you're in advanced infantry training and you're going through night infiltration courses and they're shooting live rounds over your head, and you say to yourself, I'm going home when this is over. But the guy next to me is going to Vietnam. And out of 225 people in our advanced infantry training, I want to say like 190 of them went to Vietnam.
Wow.
I was fortunate, Martin. I mean, I would have gone, but I was not foolish enough not to take the National Guard. Actually, I had done everything except sign the papers to go to helicopter school. If I was going to get drafted, that's what I wanted to do.
What's that like when you're anticipating? It's not like if you're LSU and Nichols and you're anticipating what team you're going to play in the NCAA round. This is a little different.
It's real. Yeah, it's real. And you know friends that had gone over there, and some of them did not come back. It was a tough time in this country. And actually, while we're talking about that, not this Saturday, but the next at the Military Museum in Houma here, this is the 2nd annual. It's a Vietnam era Appreciation Day, which is a nice thing to do. So everybody who was in the military or not at that time, go to the museum on, I think it's the 23rd.
And I've always said the Vietnam veterans, they got the short end of the stick because they came home, and I'm going to just say it, unappreciated.
Very much so.
And it wasn't until later that history sort of corrected itself.
Very much so. I mean, it wasn't a declared war. It was whatever.
But they had no choice.
No, you had no choice.
Yeah.
We had the lottery, and I was number 8. That was the only lottery I ever won in my life. And like I said, I would have gone. I'm glad I didn't have to. I respect all the people who went, and especially those who had to give their life, you know, for us to be able to do this today, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know?
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Parabon General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
What was it like once you got married and Mr. Ray Marcella is your father-in-law, one of the most highly decorated veterans, I'm not going to only say in this area, but nationwide because of what he went through. What were those conversations like?
Well, you know, Martin, I'm a fortunate person. I had my biological father, Henry Babin Sr., and I had Ray Marcella, because when Bernadette and I got married 54 years ago, my father had already passed away. And Ray was like a second father to me. And actually Uncle Buddy Marcella as well, because they lived next door. And I learned a lot about, not only about life from them, because, I mean, I had just gotten out of college. When I got back out to service, out of my basic training 6 months later, I mean, we already had a child on the way, okay? So you have to grow up pretty quick. You know, you graduate from college and you think you know it all, but you really don't, okay? The service was very much an eye-opening experience for me. You get to see people from all over, and you get to appreciate what you had compared to what they had, you know. But Ray was just a good person, and I learned a lot about, like I said, about life, but also about politics from him.
I'd see him and my dad together. They had this quiet confidence, but deep down when you would talk to them, you knew they had secrets that had never, ever been revealed. I remember when Mr. Ray opened up a little bit on one-on-one, I was shocked to hear some of the things he had been through. What an incredible man.
Yeah, you know, he was, for years after, when Bernadette and I first got married, he didn't really talk about the prisoner of war days and the war too much. But I guess at time has a way of slipping past me. But maybe 10 years after we were married, the B-17 crew that he was in decided to start getting together every year. And he brought them all down here to Houma. And we took a couple of them fishing and that type of stuff. And he opened up after that. And over the years, he talked to you about it. He talked to a lot of schools about it. I mean, he was shot down over Munich, Germany, and spent right out of a year in a prisoner of war camp and came out weighing 81 pounds, but lived to a glorious 96 years old.
But he landed in the right place.
He landed actually where the Olympics were in Munich, Germany. And on
the nice sector.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? But no, just, you know, family life is everything, okay? And I'm fortunate I had it at my home, and then as we got married and our family started growing, we had a wonderful family with the Marcellos. And the beauty of living on the same street, when my children were growing up for holidays, Ray and them would always invite my mother and my aunt over, but if they didn't, my girls could just walk between both grandparents and great-grandparents down the street. So,
but did you see yourself doing, because Mr. Ray would pass the collection in church. He was active in government, as you know, and he did a lot of things. You as his son-in-law, when your dad passed early, you started mimicking Ray a little bit.
You know, I did, Martin. I've been an usher at St. Francis Church for a lot of years, okay? And the furniture store used to stay open on Thursday nights until 8 o'clock. And we'd always cook something on Thursday nights. And to go back a little bit, Ray's father, Papa Marcella, was a city alderman, okay? Ray was a city alderman. I became a parish councilman, mainly because of that. Yeah. Uncle Charles Davison, Ray's brother-in-law, was not only on the school board and on the city council, he was mayor of Houma. Mr. Charles Adams, who had Best Bakery right down the street from us, was on the school board. So on Thursday nights when we cooked, a lot of the conversation revolved around politics, be it school board, city council, whatever. And because I guess of my degree in history and government, I just kind of gravitated that way and enjoyed it and just learned a lot listening to those guys. I can still see Mr. Charlie Adams. He always had a pencil in his hand, and he'd tap that pencil, and then he'd write something down, and you just listened when he was talking. And Ray was the same way. He had a good vision. And then Uncle Buddy, on the other hand, would bring in the recreation part of it.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits & Downer Law Firm. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Parabon General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits & Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits & Downer.